Leeds United made the most of their second chance in the European Cup against Stuttgart, the team they say has more foreign reserves than the Bank of England. Leeds won 2-1 in Barcelona in front of a tiny crowd. Their hero was Shutt. He scored the winner less than a minute after coming on as a substitute, and tomorrow's his birthday.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Welcome to episode 183 of the Talking Shutt podcast. We're live from Ben's kitchen this week. My front room last week. Ben's kitchen this week. And a bit of a tough one, this. And for obvious reasons. And I desperately don't want it to make it sound like it's a wake. So I will try and keep it upbeat after this initial bit. But it's kind of fitting, really, that there's us three sat round your kitchen table with 3 glasses of Argentinian red wine, talking about the times we had under Marcelo Bielsa when, not 3.5 years ago, it was us three, plus young Ben, when he was still young, and Bryn Law discussing this little-known to the British casual football fan manager called Marcelo Bielsa, who were potentially getting linked with a move to Leeds United. And Mike, who's not here with us tonight, unfortunately, has made a little sort of compilation of our memories of Marcelo from a Talking Shutt point of view. Play it away. Paul Williams, excited about Bielsa, but just know I'll wake up one morning and he'll be falling out with the powers that be and packed his bags.
We're not here yet.
Yeah, he's not here yet. Yeah. But yeah, I think, again, talked about that in the office before, and somebody said to me, what do you think of it? And I went, well, it'll either be a raging success or a complete disaster.
I'll return you to my original position. He's still on.
Yeah, he's still here. What is your thoughts then on Bielsa then, Bryn?
Well, I was surprised when the name popped up. Clearly there's some more than substance to it.
Yeah.
And I'd still be surprised if he arrives here.
This is Saiz. Let's go past another and slot it through. Flag stays down and the ball is in. Mateusz Klich. Dream start for Leeds United.
Don't want to get carried away, but we're definitely good up as champions. No, I'll tone it down a bit. I'll tone it down. Getting a bit excited. So, what better way to discuss the sound of success than with Leeds United Chief Executive, Mr. Angus Kinnear. Welcome to the show, Angus.
Great to be here.
Yeah, we're very glad you're here as well. We were beginning to think you might not be coming. We've all been hanging out around.
But he's stubborn though, isn't he? He doesn't do that. Bielsa.
I think you'll never ever see him take a attacker off and put a defender on. It's just not his way, is it?
Yeah.
Saw it at Forest, didn't we? Forest when we went down to 10 men. Calvin Phillips got sent off. I think he brought 2 attackers on then, and we just decided we were going for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of managers do get caught up in that in general nowadays. Is like they don't talk football, and it's more about how they want to answer the media, as opposed to whereas the manager, he'll just purely want to talk football to you, because he is obsessed himself. And
Gives me a chance here though, counter. Ailing that outside. Good ball! Come on, get it! Yes! 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 Yeah, what a journey from Bryn Law refusing to be committed to whether Marcelo Bielsa were going to join Leeds, obviously prior to Bryn working for Leeds United, all the way up to Raggish Fingers and the promotion goal. yeah, it's been one hell of a journey. Before we kind of do a bit of reminiscing,
sorry if it made you cry.
mate,
It made
it's
me
just-
cry. So Mike sent it over to me on Monday night, and I was making tea, and I would watch, and Al had like chinned me for admitting this on the internet, but yeah, it broke me.
I've struggled to watch any sort of media, any videos, any podcasts this week since the news broke, because of that and because how emotional I got. Even on Saturday before it was official, but obviously it leaked to a few outlets, and it looked like the writing was on the wall. And trying to explain to my partner, who's a South African rugby fan, who, to be fair to her, she's come to Ellen Road this season. She's been to a game, she understands it, she gets it. But yeah, to explain to her how upset I was and how this man has transcended not just the football club I love, but the sport that I spend so much time, effort, money on. It's more than just a manager. He's more than that. He's made me look at the world in a different way. He's made me appreciate football in a different way. He's made me a better man. And I was floored. I was devastated. And and she the first time she ever came into our house, I think she realised that I liked him, just the sheer amount of artwork, graded drawers, prints up.
You made her sleep on settee because she had a picture of Marcelo outside her in bed.
Exactly. So she kind of knew I was into him, but yeah, just trying to, and I think she really appreciated how upset I was, and yeah, it's just been like that ever since. And then obviously the news broke properly on Sunday, and it was weird because I was in Guy's actually now, and shortly after the news officially broke on Twitter, we drove past that pub, which is the pub, I can't remember, it was White Cross or something. And
one
of the murals there.
Yeah.
The one with him, Wilco and Revy on it. And I just looked at it and it just got me. It really did get me. And it's been very emotional few days for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think for me, that video got me just because of
our connection with it.
Yeah, our connection with it as a podcast, but also for me and Judd, which Judd for me is now like a big part of football for me. And the fact that we got to share all the memories together, even from his front room with Ice Lolly at times. I have to be thankful forever, to be fair, for what it brought.
Well, you bring kids into it. Obviously, Amelia turned 7 last week, 2 weeks ago. And she's not been to Ellen Road. But obviously she's watched Leeds on telly, and she was part of that, the old Raggy's fingers thing. She kind of crops up and everything. So she's kind of witnessed it by osmosis, and obviously my love for the club and Bielsa as well. And I didn't break it to her on Sunday until it was official. And I knew the first words she would say is why.
Yeah.
And I tried, and she said, but Dad, there's going to be no manager as good as Marcelo Bielsa. These are her words. These were her words. And I said, I fully agree with you. I really do. And that's when at that moment it dawned on me. It was like, the thing is, I was gearing up. I was really hoping the FA Cup this year, our first game would be at home, just so I had a chance to take her. I can't take her with me in the Cup. No.
I should be saying different things.
Yeah,
about
exactly.
People.
Exactly. So I've been trying to engineer, because I think she's ready to go to a game. And then it dawned on me, she'll never witness a Bielsa ball. She'll never go to a Leeds United under Bielsa. And that broke me again.
I think it's that thing, innit? It's that side of things. I know we've had a lengthy discussion before, because we've kind of dipped in and out of our WhatsApp group this week, depending on how we felt about the situation at the time. And we had a little bit of a dip before. And I think I said before that from a footballing point of view, I was kind of at peace that Bielsa would leave probably sooner rather than later. I didn't quite have it this soon, I'll be honest, but I kind of was at peace. And I think I'd said a few times that I thought that summer was a natural sort of fire break in the Bielsa tenure. But one thing that hit me like a ton of bricks. I took Raggy's advice, and I avoided everything. I didn't even open. I did a bit of grief scrolling on Twitter just to see what people were saying, but I didn't really watch many things or keep anything like that. And then I was sat on my settee watching Jack Catterall and Josh Taylor fight, and I suddenly just got hit like a bus, thinking, I need to know if he's all right. Like, is there any way we can get him to give us 3 rings when he gets home? Just because from a man point of view, I'm thinking, God, like he's given us so many things this year, and I've so much to be thankful for. And I feel kind of like I've let him down, even though it was nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And I kind of just thought, God, I just hope he's all right. And you saw the pictures from sort of Thorpe Arch and all that type of stuff, and yeah, like. I've never connected with a manager. I've never met the guy, but
No.
I feel like I've connected with the manager on a personal level, and much to thank him for. And I think that's why it's hard.
And I think everyone has I think that's the main thing with Bielsa, that everyone, like, even if you didn't like football, you knew Bielsa what. Even like
my missus hates football, and when I said Bielsa's going to get sacked, she was good. She hates football.
Like my aunties and my mum would, I think they wanted to go to Weatherby just to walk around Weatherby, like, oh, might see Bielsa.
Yeah.
Just because that's what he did. He walked around Weatherby. He did the normal things. Like he went to Morrison's. He went in the local restaurants. He went to Costa Coffee and sat in Costa Coffee. And in a world where like you have these celebrity managers who probably don't go anywhere near normal people apart from on a match day and stuff like that, he was just this normal guy.
Yeah. And you know what? I think through all COVID and all the stuff that we've been through, all the shit we've been through in the last, and I said that as humanity. I don't just mean me. I mean all of us with COVID and the stuff with Ukraine and all that type of stuff. And for me, prior to Bielsa coming in, I could honestly say I never felt any further away from my club. I mean, me and you were on the trust board at the same time, Ben, purely because I think we can both say that we got just fucking fed up of the ownership and even some of the players that we saw coming in. And I always remember me taking my son on the stadium tour, and the guy taking us on the stadium tour, Sticks Lockwood, said, "Oh, if you hang around here about 1:30, the players will come and you'll be able to like have a photo and that."
Yeah.
And they could not have parked the coach any closer. They may as well have drove it on the pitch just so that the players didn't have to interact with people. Now, whether that was a conscious decision by the ownership or leadership of the team at the time, I'm not sure. But in the run-up to before Bielsa joined, I can honestly say I was at a loss with football in general. Across the board, I felt like money had begun to corrupt it, and the players didn't really connect with the fans, and the fans were divided, and it just felt a really shit time.
We kind of started this because there was nothing really to talk about in a football sense, but it was an excuse to sort of get a few guys together, have a bit of a chinwag and do something, and have a bit of laugh, and so, rather than just think, oh,
well the thing is, for anybody who's like come late to our podcast, and this is not about our podcast, but we started because basically the square ball were on a break. Me and Ben did a podcast previous to this for the trust, and then we got asked to do it, and obviously the square ball were having some struggles, which they've talked about recently in terms of getting into record and stuff. And like we basically started this to get guests on related to Leeds and talk about Leeds. It never really meant to be the match roundup and all that type of stuff that it's eventually evolved into. But like we started it because of needing to feel closer to the club in a weird kind of way.
Yeah, I suppose in a way, yeah.
But a lot of those early episodes, we were reminiscing. It was nostalgic Leeds.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't really. It wasn't so much the immediacy until Bielsa came in.
Yeah.
And that
because there was nothing to talk in a football sense. There was nothing really to talk about. What we'd turn up for games. We might win. We might lose. Whatever.
Yeah.
What's your memories of that Stoke game? Because I remember, I think I'd been to a couple of pre-season games. Did we play Las Palmas in last pre-season? Friendly.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
Road, yeah. And you went, and it was a lovely sunny day, but like you're thinking, not much. I can't see much difference here. And then
I think at that point as well, Las Palmas had just been relegated from La Liga.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then lo and behold, with that Stoke game, I remember thinking, because if you remember, Stoke had spent a lot of money. They had a lot of players on a lot of money.
Yeah. I think they bought like Benica Fobe after coming down and stuff like that.
Tebu, the kid from
Tebu,
he was an international, and you're thinking, I'll take a draw.
They had players like Butland, Shawcross.
Yeah. They were absolutely.
They were favourite. If you just before it, they did the EFL did some sort of like board. They had like
Rowett were hammering Phillips, weren't they? Saying we were going to get relegated.
Basically saying, we're Bucky's favourite for a reason and all this, giving it all this one. Last time I checked, we were favourites for the title.
It just been a bit of a dick.
Yeah, and Calvin Phillips was his typical affable self, like just kind of laughing it off sort of thing. And who had the last laugh because unreal. Jeez. And obviously, the real kind of comedy moment of that was Sky had Heckingbottom in the studio as a pundit.
Yeah.
And that was it, because it laid bare of, other than Douglas, it was the same team that Heckingbottom had.
Yeah.
Obviously, Click was available and they didn't have him because he was on loan because he'd been bombed out. But other than Douglas and Click, the rest of the players
team,
were exactly what Heckingbottom had.
I remember
because couldn't get a tune out of.
Because of the cynical Leeds United fan in me from seeing shit for so long. I remember coming out of the game and saying, "Fucking hell, that were good, that, but I'm not sure if we can keep doing that. That was just fucking incredible." And then lo and fucking behold,
but that was also because I didn't go to that game. I watched it on telly, but that's what they were saying. There's no way Leeds are going to keep this intensity up. Yeah. And then we went to Derby the next game and whooped them.
And we were like, "Oh, hold on."
It's not just a fluke.
And they were gonna, but again, all the pundits, you won't be able to keep this intensity. You won't be doing that all season.
Yeah.
And that became this narrative that they were building against us, the burnout narrative and the and everything. And that was the genesis of that, because nobody had seen that in English football.
That kind of came from, didn't it? The burnout idea came from previous jobs he'd had where, they did really well, but then they burnt out. There's never really been any evidence at Leeds, and I even stick by that even to this point now where we're quite out of form, but there's never really been any evidence of burnout.
Not physically,
not physical. I mean, we obviously, I think it's quite on. We had a spy in the camp in the first season who used to be able to drop us a bit of info, mainly on how physical the lads were. And we got sent a chart once that detailed body fat, which were quite interesting to look at. I think Lewis Baker were 7%, and he was the lowest, I think, from what I remember of the chart. I don't know where the chart's gone now, but he was by far the lowest. But there's been no evidence of physical burnout. Even the season that we were talking about now, where we unfortunately didn't make it due to that Derby debacle. And I still wonder, how much Spygate made a part, as in grinding the club down in that season. But there was never no evidence of Bielsa burnout at all physically.
I genuinely believe it was a mental breakdown.
Yeah, I
genuinely believe that the team just hadn't ever been in that position before. We just didn't have those players who had been. And we just didn't,
because it was so close. You take playoff as first half, sort of second half with the two legs, and that first game we were comfortable. The Derby didn't even fucking touch us.
I think for sure
we were brilliant.
It nailed on Ed when he came on our pod and said we thought we'd cracked it.
Yeah,
to be honest, that's what it were. We took his eye off the ball. We thought we'd cracked it. Then we got a couple behind ourselves, and then then it started getting a bit
mistakes
creeping. I mean,
anger gets in, Berardi gets sent off.
Before we get into that sort of part of the season, the Villa Blackburn games over the Christmas period when we came from behind on both occasions.
I mean, and that's sort of halfway into a season, and people were talking about burnout, and we literally hammered these teams in the last minutes of games.
Mate, the Blackburn one, when we conceded in the 91st from a dodgy free kick, and then we went on to win it. I remember I'd been on days. I'd been at work anyway, so I weren't at the game. But me and Judd were sat on our settee, and my settee used to be under where the stairs go up, so there's a bit of a boxing bit. And when the winner went in, Judd, what is it, 2017, 18? He was 8 or 9. And I remember throwing him up in air and then banged my head on the box thing, but it was fine. And my missus going, "Be careful, you're going to knock an all-in wall." And I was just going berserk around the front room. So that particular one's a highlight. Then we had the Villa give a goal game, which is ironic because when we played Villa this year, they insisted on keeping the ball alive, even when we had players dead on the floor. But that's a different thing.
I guess we can talk about just how Bielsa is as a person, that I guess by all our accounts that we shouldn't have given a goal back to him there, because I watched the video back when from the podcast, and I watched the clip again just to remind myself of it when I was doing all this stuff, like the research for the video we played in the intro. And Tyler Roberts stops and looks at the ref, and then ref's like, "Well,
play on,
crack on."
Play on.
So we did. And then I guess had that been where we needed to win to maybe get promoted, it might have been a different story. The season was pretty much over then. Sheffield, I think the weekend before the Easter weekend,
we were clutching, weren't we, there to try and stay in it?
Well, I think you'd probably gone from that weekend before in Easter.
Am I right as well in thinking at that time that we always dropped on where Sheffield United early kickoff, and we had 3 o'clocker.
Yeah.
So you're always sat in like
definitely.
East Stand Concourse watching the last 10 minutes of their game, and then wondering if we were going to be able to do it.
No, it was that. I genuinely believe that it doesn't matter what the scenario, the situation is. In that scenario, again,
They'd have given the goal anyway.
Given the goal.
Yeah.
I was livid. I was fuming. I was not happy. I was stood on the cop. I was screaming. No. And at one time I turned around to Neil and went, "That's it. I'm done with football." Because and do you know why? Not because it was the wrong thing to do. It was typically the right thing to do morally and ethically. It was the right thing to do. But in footballing terms, it was the wrong thing to do because nobody
ever does it. Yeah,
nobody's ever done that, and nobody will ever do that ever again.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And obviously Villa
Villa
go up.
Yeah,
and then let's face it, they should have gone down the following season.
Yeah,
in a very similar situation where, and at halftime they knew Hawkeye did not work.
Yeah,
it should have been a goal.
Yeah,
did they come back at the beginning of the second half and go? Right.
Yeah, I remember watching that game.
Walk it in.
Yeah, 1-1.
They didn't.
Yeah,
and everyone went, they're going to get relegated if they.
And they would have done.
Well, exactly. If that goal had stood, they would have gone down.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And it's not just a team; it was that same team, that same manager, and that's why I was so fuming. But ultimately, that's what Marcelo is. He's just he's unique, and he lives in a world, or he operates in a world of money, of cynicism, of, let's face it, we've had, we see it all at the Premier League. Like, it's bad enough last season when we were watching it on telly and we were out the grounds, but back in the grounds, you see the dive and you see the play
Bruno
acting.
Fernandes of the week, ridiculous.
Absolutely. And he instructs his team not to do that, to our detriment.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say
we've lost
that sometimes goes against us, doesn't it? But
it does from a footballing point of view. But he is such a moral man that becomes first.
I've got a good memory for us to regale. Spygate and that press conference that he called.
Yeah.
So like, if you remember, to give the story. So we'd been told before it came news that he'd spied on majority of the teams that we'd played. I think he'd missed out on Hull and one other team, West Brom, because we'd lost.
I think that was the one we lost 4-1.
Yeah. Because he couldn't get his work experience lad close enough to ground or something along
those lines as well. We'd lost both games.
Yeah, and we laughed about it, if you remember. We were like, it's quite funny that he's done that. And then obviously what happened. But in the day that obviously all booted off because Frank Lampard had a big cry, but then we heard that they'd called a presser. So we reached out to people who everyone in the media, anybody we could text. So I remember texting Poppy and Phil A and a few others and saying, look, is he going to resign? Yeah. And they were like, we don't know. We've just been told to go to Thorpe Arch, kind of thing. I remember thinking, so what if you remember what we did, we spoke to Ryan Wilson and we jumped in studio and we did an emergency podcast because we were all shitting ourselves about what he'd done at Lazio, where he resigned 4 days into his tenure. And we thought that this might actually force him out because he'd been fully vilified in the press as being this subhuman cheating scum that was helped along by Frank Lampard and his lies that he was carrying a bolt cropper and some night vision goggles and whatever else he claimed that he'd got. And then the press the PowerPoint he did, if it was a DVD, I would buy it now. It's some of the most remarkable things.
You can watch it on YouTube. I'm sure when I was looking through it, all different kinds of stuff, you can.
It's some of the most remarkable bit of telly, whatever you want to call it, I think I've ever seen. And I was just like, oh my fucking God, look what detail he goes to. Like, didn't he
I guess in a way, though, to sort of, I guess kind of devil's advocate. I mean,
we do analysis too. That's what Frank said.
Yeah, I mean, do people go into? I'd like to know how much detail other people go in, and maybe some we can come back to later that the differences between that going forward.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the stories of Marcelo paying kids when he first started coaching in Argentina, paying the local kids to go sit in the tree near the opposition training ground and watching them. There's also stories of him when he was manager of our team, can't remember who, playing pre-season friendly against some like 4th division side, and he went and gave them loads of analysis on his own team, so he could feel like it was a level playing field rather than him having some sort of advantage and things like that. And ultimately, Spygate, I think, contributed to our drop off mentally. And I know people at the club were pissed off with how long it ran on for.
And let's face it, he fronted up and paid
£200,000
£200,000 out of his
Yeah.
own pocket for that.
The other one that sticks in my head from that season, and I'll be honest, Ben, when you did the notes today, because I've been busy at work, I went through this, and so many like memories came flooding back that I'd honestly forgot about. The Wigan game at home when we needed to win Boxing Day. Was it around Boxing Day?
Yeah.
We needed to win.
No, it was
Good
Friday.
Good Friday, that's it. We needed to win to stay in it, and I watched it in the box with Ryan Wilson, and Ryan used to do a bit of LS11 after show, like live, and if you dare to go back and look at it on YouTube, you can see the big vein sticking outside of my head, and I went full Kevin Keegan, like I called him spineless and everything, because I've never been as angry that we went 1-0 up against 10 men and then somehow constructed to get defeated 2-1 at Ellen Road against bottom of the table Wigan.
I guess at that point, that game was really frustrating and everything. But you look back at it now, and we've had similar since. We had similar. I think it was very similar to the Newcastle game.
Yes,
but and that's sort of how it kind of went in it. With like you would have them games, but at least we were battering teams rather than just like years before we did just rolled over and just carry on, and then we'd have lost because we deserved to lose rather than them just getting the look or whatever.
Another favourite memory is that Pablo goal. I've talked about it many times on podcast.
The West Brom one.
The West Brom goal.
Yeah.
We'd got beat by QPR down at QPR.
Yeah.
The famous picture of Bielsa sat in the tunnel on his haunches looking down. We were woeful at QPR. I don't think we created absolutely anything at all. And then Ellen Road, it was packed. I remember walking around the ground. It was busy and it had that like bit of a vibe.
Yeah,
it felt an
buzz.
Important game. And again, I was very lucky enough to watch it from Proper Sports Box. But kicked off, Liam Cooper, massive header, wins the header, takes the man with him when he wins the header. It goes down the other end. Jackie Harrison breaks away, cuts it back to Pablo, who's screaming for it. It hit the net and the world just felt like it erupted. I had to go up picking up 2 pigeon detectives at the same time. Failed miserably. Then remember thinking, shit, where's Judd? And he's going mental with some other people. And then the buzz around Ellen Road, it was akin to the Champions League nights for me. In the atmosphere, it was electric, and we absolutely battered West Brom, and they were chasing us, and we took their heart away that night. They were done.
That finished.
Finished them off.
Finished them for the season, and that was 1st of March.
Did they not drop out of the playoffs as well? I think at that they never made it to the playoffs.
No, they made it to the playoffs, and then they lost to Villa.
But I genuinely think we broke their heart that night. We absolutely battered them
because
every time.
As much as I think up till sort of Christmas, we were first, but then we had that little bit of a run. I think we lost 5 over Christmas sort of thing, New Year into February. And that sort of opened the door. I remember, actually, that's what I did on Monday. I came home, I started watching the second series of Take It Home.
You're a sadist. Did you watch that on Monday?
Well,
Mate, I cried when we still had Bielsa at that. No, it doesn't help.
I watched the first episode and not the second.
Right, yeah.
I think the second one would have been
is it Ellen Smith?
Yeah. I listened to that song a lot as well.
No, I can't do it. I can't. Genuinely, God's honest truth. With the Bielsa, without Bielsa, I cannot listen to that song. It takes me back to that. It takes me back to Raggy's Fingers. It takes me back to getting pissed on the internet, and it takes me back to just that feeling. Like you guys will have had the same thing. Like I started supporting Leeds in 1992 because my granddad bought me a shirt from Car Boot, and he'd grown up in Morley, and I was a Barnsley lad. And then I started supporting Leeds, and then I was very, very lucky to see all the Champions League games at home. The Premier League games against Tottenham when Ian Hart scored a free kick and Tim Sherwood scored for Tottenham. And when George Graham had just left us to go to Tottenham, at least fans were hammering him because he'd obviously gone there. That was the start of the O'Leary sort of era. Yeah. And then I remember, the -15, which were an amazing season. And anyway, all them types of things. But that video and that song were like somebody pulled a cork out of me. It was just like the night we watched the Huddersfield game, and obviously there was all the celebrations at the ground. I've never felt so elated, but in a weird way relieved, because I spent so many years as a kid at school in Barnsley getting hammered because Leeds was shit, and they were to a degree. And I kind of finally felt like all these dickheads like Gabby Agbonlahor, the Keys, Andy Gray, all these other people who just want nothing more than Leeds to fail, finally got a massive fuck you, and we were back in the Premier League where we deserve to be. And I spoke to a Scum fan today, and he's like, I don't want Leeds to go down. They deserve to be in Premier League. They're a big club. And it was kind of like, and breathe. Like, we've fucking finally done it. After all the false starts, after all the shysters we've had in charge, we've fucking rinsed us, after all the awful refereeing decisions, after all the division and fucking everything else that's gone before, chasing owners in taxis, fucking Ken Bates putting pie tax, everything that's gone before, that goal by Emile Smith-Rowe, just forgot it all. Just it all gone.
And you forget, well, you don't forget, but that season, look, for months we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Was it going to be points per game?
God.
Was football ever going to come back?
Was it going
to be null and void?
Yeah.
And it was just the typical Leeds thing. The one time that, and we was on such a run. We'd won 5 games, and we won 5 games on the
5 games in a row. Then
I think we'd had 3 consecutive clean sheets.
Not what Karen Kearney said, but anyway.
Yeah.
But mate,
that was the thing. And then we came back and lost against Cardiff on that first game back. Behind closed doors.
When Forshaw had said it were nailed on to the Leeds that podcast as well, he said, we could definitely get promoted, and then we got beat by Cardiff.
And then you go up. But then, I mean, there was that running. I mean, it was incredible. And like you say, it was that relief. It was that thing. And the world was changed because of COVID, and it was in a very different way. Have we lost video?
We've just lost video. We'll keep starting it out.
The world was completely different, but it didn't matter.
He was back.
It didn't matter, and we were back. And I've had quite a few debates with non-Leeds fans of my mates over the last few weeks. Most of them, again, why they've got a major opinion on us, I don't know. I don't know. And they were all screaming, how can you still be back in Bielsa after the recent results and everything like that? And I said to him, because a lot of them are Premier League fans of different clubs, and I said, the thing is, you don't know what it's like to support a team that are
universally hated by everybody.
Yeah, but also 15th in the Championship year after year,
and just
yeah, exactly. But you at this point of your season, your season's over. You're probably not going to go down. You're probably not going to get even scraping the playoffs. It's just dead rubbers. Nothing. Every summer you go, ooh, this new signing which you've never heard of has come from like the Turkish leagues and stuff, and you go and you have to wait to see what they're going to be like and all that, and it's just shit. And he came in because again, people said don't really get the hype, and I was like, but when someone comes in and goes, I don't need loads of players, I don't need you to get the checkbook out. What you've got is fine, and I'm like, nah. No chance.
Yeah,
I was so excited when we got Bielsa just because I thought there's no way he's signed off on this squad and he'd come here. I'm thinking we're signing all these amazing players. He's going to bring them all with him, and he didn't. And I'm thinking, oh god, this could be a disaster.
And that's something I saw. I can't remember who said it today. Charlie Austin, I think I saw on Twitter today. He says he took Leeds from 15th with, and he slates all the players, but these players are still playing in the Premier League now. But yeah, these players that are still playing in the Premier League now, and maybe their time is going to come to an end soon, maybe this summer, next summer, whatever. But yeah, he took these players, didn't get a lot more else to bring in, where you look at the Championship now and they're spending big money on shit players.
Fulham have bought the way out of it. They're going to go up this year with Mitrovic, but they've bought the way out. Look at Bournemouth. Bournemouth are a prime example. They've become like Moneyball. They've just signed everybody. They've like cheat code activated FIFA. They've signed everybody who has ever been a Premier League player who's no longer. They've literally just gone and signed them. Their squad must be a squad of 37 or something stupid.
That was the way that for years you got out of the Championship. Obviously, it didn't always work because you had those that failed in Derby County.
Yeah. You had Clegg Huddersfield. Credit to them. They did get out without spending loads of dollar. With Wagner and Wagner.
They did end up spending a load of dollar, but I think not until they knew that it was going to happen. They needed that little bit of a push with the players to get up, kind of thing. But yeah, most teams that go up have spent usually a lot of money. West Brom spent a lot of money. They sort of went up and then they've struggled now and stuff like that. And that was the way in the Championship. I remember us selling Ross McCormack, who pretty much for one season dragged us.
Oh, it kept
dragged
us
us in the league. Yeah,
kept us up.
And that's what the Championship was. And this guy come in and he's like, well, I don't need to spend all this money. I've got these players. I'll just make them better. and he did,
and a lot of those players, I can hold my hands up and say I'd written them off.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were good enough for the championship. I certainly didn't think they were good enough to win a championship.
Mate, we debated the season before Bielsa came in, or the season after we failed in the Derby playoffs. I think I can't remember one of them. Whether we think that Kemar Rufer and Calvin Phillips should move on because we're not too sure what Calvin does. Yeah, and then
the summer before Bielsa, because obviously we sold Ronaldo Vieira that summer, and the question was if you had to sell one, because with the money situation and everything, it was one of them might have to go, and I bet it was overwhelming. It was Calvin Phillips that they said to go.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Well,
when you look at what he's done,
exactly. When you look at what he earmarked for that position, and you looked at the two of them, you looked at their attributes and everything like that. It was overwhelmingly, from my point of view, well, Vieira would slot in there perfectly.
Yeah.
And it was, well, whether it was the club decision because they could get 7 million for him from Sampdoria.
Yeah.
And maybe at that time they couldn't get that for Phillips or what. But I think he'd already earmarked, Phillips will do that role.
Yeah.
And he was just, he was a visionary, an absolute visionary. I was always, and I'll still kind of say this, I was always a Calvin Phillips fan. There was a lot of people that weren't. No, I was, but I didn't think he would be that player.
No.
Christensen had him playing as a 10.
Yeah, he did, yeah. They said, didn't they, that every manager who come in before Bielsa looked forward to working with Calvin Phillips, but none of them could really figure out where his best position were. And then Bielsa came in and went, right, you're a 4. And I think Calvin even said after that, he didn't believe him.
Well, he put that on Twitter as well, didn't he? He said, you made me, see things that I didn't even see.
In myself.
In himself.
And just to go back on that Stoke game where Heckingbottom was in the and I guess this has always been the thing against Bielsa, that he's come in and he's shown a lot of people up.
Yes.
That like Heckingbottom, and maybe he didn't get the best run of it here. Like he had sort of, I think was it just after January he came in and he didn't have a lot to work with in that respect.
It was after the transfer window shut, and then they appointed him a couple of weeks later. So he could do nothing. But he also showed, it was like the opposite of Bielsa. And I know it's difficult because he was managing. He was in a job, wasn't he? He wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
We got him from Barnsley, didn't we?
Yeah.
But what I was saying is he wasn't. He hadn't left Barnsley. So I know it's difficult.
He was in a job.
But he was the opposite of Bielsa, because Bielsa, and I know he was out of a job, so he could do all that homework. Yeah. But he'd done that. Heckingbottom, like, I don't think, if you look through it, I'm pretty sure, I don't think he picked a single same 11. Probably, you know what I mean? Right. He didn't know his best team. He couldn't work it out. He couldn't.
It was like learning on the job.
Exactly. Which kind of happens if you, like you say, if you get jettisoned in. But that showed that he couldn't. He just didn't know. And like every game, it was just another. Well, let's try this then.
Yeah.
Let's play him there instead. And he just couldn't work it out.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's not the best time.
Bielsa came in and he had his plan, and this is how he was going to play. And whether they liked it or not, it's my way or the highway kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Good. Obviously, COVID, we've talked about COVID.
I guess to go to the players, that the players had to buy into that as well, and credit to them for what they've done over the last.
Yeah, and I think if you've got
to
give credit to the people that went before, is we didn't have many knobheads, and when we did, they got thinned out.
Yeah.
Well, let's face it. The first season, halfway through it, he gets rid of our best player.
Yeah.
Simon Says.
Yeah.
Doesn't shed enough weight. Slack attitude. Didn't start that many games under Bielsa. Came on a lot and changed games because he was a good player.
Yeah.
But gets jogged on before even the January transfer window.
Didn't
he go early?
Yeah, as soon as he went,
he wasn't available.
I want to leave. He let him go straight away. Sent him home, didn't he?
And at the end of that season, Janssen, who's arguably at that time our best centre half, doesn't. He didn't like the fact that it was all about him. He wasn't brave enough with the balls that he was playing.
Yeah.
The Villa situation that pissed him off. The fact that he tries to stop them scoring when he went against
coming back late from international duty deliberately.
And trying to convince other players who wanted to come back to do the same. And he's never been scared of making big decisions.
And it's on the face of it now, it was a great choice.
Yeah.
And again, I know Victor Orta and the ownership have come on for some serious peppers in the last few days, but Victor Orta went out and got Ben White. And look at Ben White now.
Yeah.
So the Janssen decision proved to be a good one.
Yeah.
And it looks like he'll be playing Champions League football next year.
Yeah. In other news then, so COVID struck. We were all grounded by the government at home, which led us to doing watch-alongs. Now, we've had some shit even recently from doing them watch-alongs during the COVID pandemic. But to give some context to that, we as a podcast had been running for 2.5 years at that point.
Yeah.
We didn't really have much to say prior to the football beginning again because everybody were locked down and we could only... What did we do? We started doing quizzes and all sorts of weird shit, didn't we?
I think
to try and
like,
fill time and
we were just
keep
talking about what we were doing
going.
over lockdown and stuff like that. And
we interviewed like Paddy Kisnobo on the worst internet connection.
Mate,
of
but
all
what a
time.
guy, mate.
Yeah,
But again, that's like what part of the memories I remember. I'd arranged, I can't even remember how it came about, but me and you got up at like 7:07 in the morning to interview Paddy, and we dialed in and he was the nicest, could not do enough for us. And then his internet just fell apart, and then he moved to a different room and it fell apart again. Then he moved to a different room and it fell apart again. But
long way to go for internet.
Yeah, we managed to. It's a long cable. We managed to bumble through it to the end. But I always remember, like, I hung up to Paddy. Me and you like did a bit of a better get ready to go to work. So like 7:10 in the morning, and Paddy texts me back on WhatsApp with just a spinning gif of the Leeds badge, just saying marching on together.
Yeah,
and I thought that's fucking class. And do you know something? Fair play to him. I reckon if I text him now, because I've still got his number, if I text him now and said, "Would you be willing to do X?" he'd still do it.
Yeah,
because I put Joe Urquhart in touch with him recently when he did an article for Yorkshire Evening Post, and what a top guy. And again, he all buys into that kind of thing. But yeah, the watch-alongs.
I guess football. If you go to football, you have mates you go with and stuff like that, and that's all part of it, isn't it? Like, I've got my mates I sit with and what have you, and we go to games, and I wouldn't know what football would be like if I didn't go to football with them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Didn't sit around them and the same people you sit around, and it's same with those. We come on here on a Wednesday night or whatever night we end up doing a podcast on, and we talk through the week and what have you. But
everybody seems to think with podcasts, and I've discovered this over the 5 years we've been podcasting, me and you, Ben, anyway, together. That everybody seems to think that it's like a thrive for fame or a thrive to get closer to the club or whatever it might be. The reality of the matter is that
we just like doing.
We're just like sitting together and talking about Leeds, and actually, we've got a fair few people who like hearing what we've got to say, and that's the long and short of it.
Remarkably,
and you know,
and it's even better when
in a funny kind of way.
When you've got someone that were the football that we were playing because of Bielsa, that makes
helps.
It a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, the famous lager lollies. Shall we talk about the lager and lime lolly rags? So what we discovered doing the watch-alongs was occasionally one of us would be watching it on Sky, and one of us would be watching it on a stream or something along the lines. And the stream that we put up also had a slight delay in it.
Yeah.
Now, on the Swansea game, I think you'd gone to watch it with your mum, Ben, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And me and Rags had decided to, again, watch it from Raggy's lamp in his front room. We have flag draped over it. And me and my son in front room with strict orders not to jump around too much on the internet. And obviously the game was quite tense. And the ice cream man had come past, and we turned out in the watch-alongs. Like, there's no production value. We just did what we would have normally done.
Yeah.
But we filmed it at the same time, and it was a bit of bants. And we got a few people saying, in fact, I got a message after, a really heartfelt one, and it's actually the tagline on our Twitter page now, saying, "Lads, I'm disabled. I was housebound throughout lockdown, and I honestly cannot thank you enough for what you did. It felt me feel close." And I thought, well, that's worth it.
And that's what it's about, isn't it? And that's, I guess, go on about us a bit more, but like that's why we do it, because if people can't have that, maybe people don't have any Leeds fan mates and they can't go sit around with their mates, and that's what it's about. We can do it. We've got this internet now. Well, I've had it for a while, but you can do this sort of stuff, and then people can get involved from all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, we had messages from people in China, all over the place. But anyway, it's not about us. But back to the lager lollies. So Raggy ended up where he was a couple of seconds in front of us. So my
30 seconds.
Yeah, my missus has walked in and she's gone, "Ice cream man's here. Do you want an ice cream, missus?" "I better not have an ice cream because it's a little bit shit for me eating ice cream. I'll have a lager and lime lolly." So she disappears and produces lager and lime lolly. And I'm sat on my son used to bring his beanbag down, so because it was at the same height as the footstool, which then I could put my laptop on, I think. And anyway, by the by. And I'm not watching Raggy, who's in the bottom corner, with his fingers, his famous fingers. So I honestly, when you see that
to
clip,
Raggy for like not shouting or anything.
but we'd had an agreement, haven't we? We'd had an agreement before that we tried not to spoil it for each other.
I think there was a game. I think there was a game that you were far ahead of me, and I don't think you kept to that agreement.
Yeah, I'm terrible. I'm really bad at all like that.
But there was a chance earlier on, and I went, oh, and you were like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? And then you got it, and at that point I realized, I'm quite far ahead.
Yeah.
And then as the game went on, and what minute was that? Was it 89?
It was very late.
So late. And I just said it I just got it in my head. I was like, as much as I will want to go crazy, because let's face it, that goal,
89th minute.
Fucking hell.
That goal got us up.
Mate, absolutely.
That was as soon as that goal goes in, we're up, and we have so many opportunities to go up. At some point, they're going to drop points. We're going to pick up points. We are up.
We had Noel Harris on as well, didn't we?
Yes.
Noel Harris and his daughter. And we'd said before, like Noel's internet or Noel's appreciation that he was on the internet was difficult. And it was quite, at one point we discussed, didn't we, should we kick Noel off? Because he was just so far behind her, he was shouting stuff. But anyway, we stuck with it, and I'm glad we did because.
Absolutely. But and then obviously we go up there and we score, and every fibre of my being wants to go fucking mental. I did not want to spoil that. I didn't want to spoil, because I just put myself in your situation and going,
I won't want that. Yeah.
Exactly. You want that moment.
And it was such a massive goal as well.
If you look back and Ayling gets that ball in the right position, and then someone starts screaming because we've scored.
You look at the screen and you miss it.
It ruins that whole thing. And that goal is such a well-worked goal as well. So I just looked down the barrel of the camera and
it was fucking brilliant. With your big beard. With your big beard you've got at the time.
I did the notes. And I just put Swansea away, Pablo in brackets. I think this was the moment we knew.
That was it, yeah.
I've got a Grady Draws print of that celebration.
I've got your face and fingers on a mug that I drink my tea from most mornings. Like that for me, through all the COVID pandemic and everything, along with the accidental Huddersfield watch along that we went to do after, never thinking that would.
Well, that was. We played Barnsley on the Thursday.
We played Barnsley, and it was a fucking woeful game, and we weren't great.
We weren't great, but that's what made it all amazing, because
they missed a sitter. Mads Anderson missed a sitter.
Yeah, they scored their own goal for our goal, and it was all like after Swansea, and it was like we've pretty much done this. It's literally hands on the trophy kind of stuff. Like we're nearly there, and then we had that game, and it was a nightmare to watch.
Behind the fucking curtains.
But like the picture of Cooper after, where he's just gone, and he knew, that's all we needed to do. We just needed to make them 3 points. And then, so we did the...
Isn't it mad that when we're talking about, like, Bielsa not compromising and Bielsa always attacking everything like that?
We held out on a lot of teams.
That second half of that game was, like, just defence.
Yeah.
We just gave up the ball. We gave up all... And that's probably nerves. It's probably nothing to do with Bielsa. Like, Bielsa was probably tearing his hair out. But at that moment...
It felt like we totally thrown everything out the window, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like everything we've done for the last 2 years.
All that philosophy, all that we go, we might concede 3, but we'll score 4. All that was just gone that game. And it was just...
And not to get ahead of myself, I guess we can come on to this in a bit as well when we talk about recent events. But we've shown we can do that. And... So I guess we'll finish this season, like get onto the Huddersfield game, and as we've said many times on this, I think it was just like, I think I'd come home from work, I thought, I'm going to watch this game anyway. Anyone fancy sitting on the internet? If something happens, it happens. If done, we'll turn it off.
We were fully expecting West Brom to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody were.
Go watch Last Leg or whatever you watch on a Friday night or whatever. And
if you remember, I was working, I chucked our Judd in as a standing replacement, thinking this will be absolute nothing. And if you remember, I jumped in the car to leave from work, and I jumped on the stream and went, "I'm on my way, lads. How's it going?" kind of thing. I'll be with you in 40 minutes, whatever. I drove there, and then I've kicked Tarjud to one side and jumped on, and then I'll be honest, the rest's a bit of a blur, because I woke up next day and someone very inconvenient had left loads of lager bottles in my house and not told me about it, which were a bit of a bastard's trick. But I remember when the game had finished, we decided to get a bit mental. I had a scarf tied around my head, and I literally
just sending links to
literally just dumped links to every single person in my phone book, which probably killed me at long run, because some of them don't reply to me anymore. But
I enjoy watching the videos of that, and then like Bielsa turning up and all that kind of stuff, and the players.
Mate, the Calvin Paddy one as he walks into the Legends Lounge. That was the first time really we saw the inside human side of Marcelo. Before that, we'd not seen him shake a player's hand really. We'd not seen him sort of show any sign of emotion. But then that night when he thinks he's in comfortable surroundings, surrounded by his players, and you saw really what it meant to him and what the players thought of him as well, because they couldn't do enough for him.
That bit the next morning when all the players are still pissed and they all go
to the training ground.
And they're all outside and they're
whacking each other with the
phone. And then Bielsa turns up in that car,
and all the teams just singing Marcelo,
and he's coming.
Brilliant.
I mean,
the Paddy training goal as well. That's another highlight for me when he. When he appeared with that volley from Paddy, and then Bielsa running sort of, he had his arms out, absolute gold. Like there, because he very rarely showed that side of him, or not to the sort of camera press. I'm sure he did in the inner circle a little bit, but what a season.
And then and then I guess obviously went to Derby pissed, hammered them, and that
guard of honor.
That to me, like. It was a closed book then, that after all the Spygate stuff and then all the playoff, and then we went there and did that.
Yeah.
And there was the thing the other week when we played Everton, Lampard got the last laugh. And even though Lampard wasn't there in that second season, it didn't matter because we went there. He gave us a guard of honour.
And we battered them.
Pissed.
Kip Axel's own Jamie Shackleton scoring for fun.
Yeah.
Just taking the piss.
And then
click appearing in the end of the stadium with Victor Orta as well, throwing a thing around. You just
And then we played Charlton.
We relegated Charlton. We had nothing to play. We won the title,
and it was the most perfect. I mean, if you'd have been there in that stadium, it was the perfect end of season, last game. You've won the league already. It'd have been the perfect party.
Yeah,
I mean,
and this is the thing, and we mentioned it off air. And I tweeted it earlier in the week. The thing that sticks in the craw the most is the biggest moments of Bielsa's Leeds tenure.
We didn't get to celebrate.
We have not had that moment.
Yeah.
So we weren't there. We were all at home and we've all celebrated in different ways.
It's not the same.
But we didn't get that chance of being in there. We didn't get that chance that first season back in the Premier League where we did, we got some really great, in City away and all that. We got some wonderful.
Even Liverpool away, we got beat, but we didn't have to terrify them.
And some fantastic performances. Fantastic. It would have just been a great party. And then this season, which hasn't gone to plan.
No.
There's been a few moments, but few and far between. Especially when you look at the performances at Ellen Road. Only one win where we've actually won by more than one goal. Out the 5, it's Burnley, and now we don't even get to say goodbye to him. We don't get that, and that's the thing as a fan.
Before we get onto that, when I mentioned earlier about Leeds, I suppose it does roll into it a bit. Like the Leeds can't defend thing, but we showed in that Barnsley game, and we showed in the Man City game and a few other games that we can do that. And I think that's what hurts the most now, is that we needed that to change after the last month or so.
Yeah.
And it wasn't gonna.
I think we all said on podcasts, and it's been a difficult few weeks to be able to create content because, and I said that very loosely. I am not a fucking content creator, by the way, but I said that loosely. But it's difficult because you have to find the balance between saying what you think and also creating stuff that people want to listen to. And
I'll just say what I think.
And you just say what you think, yeah. But yeah, we talked about it briefly. I mean,
when I looked back of the sort of this season, and up until Man City, we'd not lost a game apart from Scum on the first day and Liverpool, which you can sort of give that Liverpool are one of the best sides in the world. Then
And we were down to 10 men in that game.
Yeah, and the Scum game was the first game of the season. It has not been a great summer in terms of sort of having people fit and stuff like that. We needed another week, didn't we, sort of thing, another 5 weeks to get a win, but or whatever it was. But we'd not lost by more than 1 goal, and we were in all these games.
Yeah,
and then it did start to fall apart against City, and as much as we tried to gloss over it in the last. So City was 14th of December.
Yeah.
As much as we tried to gloss over it, and when I looked back at the fixtures today, and I thought, yeah, they were the 2 wins against West Ham, Burnley. It all went wrong then.
So let's get into then what went wrong. We talked about it beforehand. My own opinion is that Marcelo was on a little bit of a hiding to nothing in terms of, I felt like the club's approach, if it even was the club's approach, but the club's approach to what we've got, we hold, we see this season out with the players that are here, that type of thing, I think was a very naive approach. In the Premier League, if you stand still, you risk going backwards. And I think that's what we did. The signing of Junior Firpo, the only first team signing really in that window.
Yeah,
Dan James, yeah. But he felt like it. When I said that, I mean, players we actually needed. I felt like, although I like Dan James and I think he's done well in tough circumstances, didn't really feel like we needed him. But now, on the face of things, we did need him.
We did because we didn't think Dan James was a centre forward, and we didn't think Paddy Bamford wouldn't play.
And do you know what? Maybe Dan James is not a centre forward.
Well,
anymore, but we'll have to wait and see.
But he has played there.
But I kind of feel like it was a bit of a perfect storm in the fact that.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at Calvin, and Calvin's been out a lot, but he played 2 championship seasons under Bielsa. He then played straight into a Premier League season, straight into the Euros. I mean, is anyone else surprised that?
Well, that's the thing.
He got an injury like that.
And the thing is, mate, the players in pretty much to a man who've played the majority of the season have been absolutely battered in footballing terms for 3 years. Yeah. COVID, gaps, all that type of stuff. And I think ultimately, as much as it fucking pains me because it's ended like this, it felt kind of inevitable with tying the fact that Marcelo likes to carry a small squad. Yeah. The club didn't really want to invest much more money if that is the case, and I'm not blaming them at all, and all that type of stuff. It felt like a bit of a perfect storm.
The small squad thing, I don't buy into, because you can still keep a small squad and improve on the quality.
You can.
So I would say it's more to do with the fact that we haven't wanted to invest.
Yes.
We can't legislate for the amount of injuries.
No.
You can kind of say, well, do you factor in, because of the situation, that we are going to increase on the level of injuries?
I think back to this season, how many times have we said, if these players were fit, you don't need anyone else. We would have been okay, sort of thing.
I found it really interesting, though, in his press conference prior to Spurs, or maybe even Liverpool, when he said, Cooper, Calvin, Patrick, don't solve the problems that we're currently undergoing now. I found that so profound and very interesting in terms of, if you look at Everton as an example, if you bring Calvin into that Everton game, Calvin just becomes one of the 3 centre-backs, and that big gaping hole in the midfield is still there.
Probably, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So although we kind of and I felt like Marcelo coming out recently and saying they're not even on grass, they'll not be back anytime soon, was more about detracting pressure away from them players to get back. I think he saw that we were using them as these 3 shining knights will come back and they'll save us. And I think he kind of foresaw that he didn't want to put pressure on them coming back to do that, because I think he felt that
they'd think they'd have to get back and all that. Just
things like that.
With the whispers going around,
Yes and no.
You're not having that one?
I'm not having that one, mainly due to the fact that Calvin's not just about his defensive side of things. It's where we've missed him is people not being able to pass fucking 5 yards. And it's bad. It's been really bad at times this year. And that's where Struijk and Koch, although they're quite good in that position in terms defensively and quite physical and everything like that, like Calvin is, they're never as open. They're never the outlet ball. They're never, he's always that. And if we've had instances where good number 10s have pulled him around and everything like that, but then that just opens up other spaces. And as long as there has been a lot of players who've let him down. From the Bamford side of things, again, I disagree with that because, well, I think Dan James has only played there because we need a player to press, like Bamford does. But then you lose out on the finishing side of things. But again, a lot of the time we've been let down recently is marauding centre halves. Now that is one thing. That's one thing. Weaknesses. Championship teams could do it against us. You beat that press once. And you've got a defender who's comfortable with the ball. You can rip through our midfield, and we saw it against Scum. We saw it against Liverpool. It's happened a lot recently, and we have been picked. But I do think that if Bamford's playing,
maybe that might happen.
And it doesn't happen. Well, it doesn't happen as often. In my mind. But I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Like just like when Bamford was back, he scored and got injured, fucking celebrating. You can't expect him to come back and everything be instant.
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly. It's too much pressure on them to expect them to do that. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're expecting them to be the saviors, it's a lot of pressure to add to them.
Yeah. But I don't know what I'm trying to say. But what I'm saying is there has been deficiencies, but I think they have been the biggest.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think that you mentioned about 5-yard passes. I also think cause and effect a little bit with that because if you're mentally and physically drained, simple things become difficult.
Not so much. Yeah, I think a lot more mentally.
We were not putting 5-yard passes in against Burnley away on the second game of the season.
For me, even pre-season felt a bit worrying when we played them games at Loughborough University against some of who had reasonably good. Some of the Spanish sides we played against. Can't remember now.
Yeah, did we play Betis?
And can't remember the other one. But we played them and even then it felt a bit disjointed. But you kind of go, yeah, but it's pre-season, it's fine. But we could go round and round in circles about what we think went wrong. But I ultimately just think that it felt to me like a bit of a perfect storm that we're only heading one way. I just wish that one way had been in the summer.
You see, for me, I'm the opposite, and I think, and that's what this is all about. It's all about opinions. I know where you're getting to, and it hasn't looked like it's improved, or was looking like it was going to improve. But then we talked recently about it's not that long ago since Villa. It's not that long ago since West Ham, and there were still deficiencies in those games, but we got results, and also we've had slumps under Bielsa before. And for me, it's a much bigger gamble doing what we've done by fuck you off. We're bringing Jesse, who was gonna come in the summer anyway, because we need to stay up. It's not going to work. It was a gamble to keep Bielsa, absolutely, but I think it was a bigger gamble to do what we've done.
I honestly think that it could go either way. If we get relegated, we'll cite the fact that we got rid of Bielsa. If we stay up, we'll cite the fact that we got rid of Bielsa. And ultimately, there's no winning, is there?
There's no winning, and there's no way of proving any of it.
No, exactly.
And
exactly.
let's face it, we're all talking about we don't get to say goodbye, and we're all talking about legacy. Fortunately, we've spent most of the night talking about the good times, which is what we should be doing because we've had 3.5 amazing,
incredible years. Yeah,
and he's given us our football club back. But he could have got even nastier. He could have taken, if they'd have said, right, no.
Could have been Wilco again, couldn't it? Where he got hounded at pretty much.
And, or we could have had we could have had the next 3 games, which people are
picks it up.
But on the flip side of that, Gary, we could have lost those games.
Yeah. And the way that
and then they've pulled the panic button.
Yeah.
And then there's no way that Jesse can
do anything with it.
I guess the big thing is Villa and Norwich, that their games we have to win.
Villa, Norwich and Watford in that run of games. There's 7 games, I think, between now
especially the sort of next week. If we'd have gone into the next sort of played Leicester, and maybe we can get a result of Leicester. I don't know. They seem to be very hot and cold, but they've got Vardy back now, so I don't know. It's going to be a very weird game to go into. But then you've got the 2 games, Villa and Norwich, and they're the big ones for me because if we don't get the results out of them, you then have to get results against Chelsea, Manchester City, Arsenal,
Yeah. The long and short is the next. I think it's 5 or 6 games. We have to be picking points up, otherwise we're in serious fucking bother. We're in bother now,
and you
can't dress it up. We're in bother now. We've just disposed of our manager who's been incredibly successful because we're in trouble.
Yeah,
and we need Jesse to come in and sort of hit the ground running.
And thinking back to sort of Saturday, that I mean, there were boos at half time. Whether I don't think they were maybe. I guess it comes as a package, really, that they weren't really aimed at Bielsa, but they were aimed at everything. That nothing seemed to be going right. But it goes back sort of Liverpool game, and I think I ranted about it on last week's podcast, that they were just doing really stupid things in defence, like running out of the line, and it just didn't seem any. If you're looking at that and you're looking at the past couple of weeks before that you think, can this team pick up from here? And I think a lot of people's feelings, maybe not everyone, a lot of people's feelings coming away from the game on Saturday was, I can't see how this gets any better.
Yeah, I mean,
just because of how
the
mentally it was broken, and this has been said a lot, and it just felt broken.
It did, yeah, I agree, totally agree.
And I mean, I went out with my mates after, and we talked about it all afternoon. And I think the general consensus was, if something was to be done, do it now, because we've got a week. Leicester could be a free hit, I guess. It's the first week of a manager, but then got to go into Villa and Derby and get.
Listen, the reality of it is the board.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of them because they might be going bust.
The long and short of it now is, and this is how brutal it is, the board have decided to draw their knife and they'll live and die by it now.
Yeah.
That's it. We can't, we can, ultimately they've made the decision based upon sound judgment from their point of view. And we as fans now we don't live and die by it. We'll back the team because that's what Leeds do all the time. They will live and die by their decision of Jesse Marsch.
Fans will, absolutely. But if it doesn't get off to a good start, don't expect unity in the fan base.
No, mate, I get that
because doing what they've done the way they've done it, it needs to start well. We really need to start well because there will be toxicity. Because even fans that were siding on Bielsa out, not just the Spurs game, but in a few weeks, they've all of them now look back, shit. What I mean? Yeah. And the vast majority, I would say, looking on Twitter over the weekend and everything like that, I would say the vast majority still backed him.
Yeah.
And that will come through. Now, I sincerely hope that he does. That this was the right decision, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it's my football club, and going down would be a disaster. Nobody wants that. Nobody. Obviously, the ownership do.
Yeah.
The players don't. The fans don't. Obviously.
Mm. I guess it'll all become. We'll get to the end of the season, and it'll all. If we stay up or go down, it'll be whether this decision was good or not. I think in a way we've got to give some, and I don't want to sound like I'm licking the board's arse here or whatever, or the owner, but I think at least they've took a gamble.
Like I said, they've done what they think in sound judgment of what they think is right, and I don't want to get into speculation of who said what and who said. I'd hope that they've got the senior players and said, "Look, this is what we're thinking about doing. What's your thoughts?"
Yeah, and I think that's the right way to do it. And if they said, and maybe they said, "No, we're fully behind Bielsa," and they've gone against that, that's their choice as owners of football club, managers, whatever they want to sort of say. But I'd hope they'd taken the players into consideration, because I guess the main thing is you can't sack 20 players, but you can sack one manager. It all comes down to that in the end, doesn't it? That if you could get 20 fresh players who are good enough, then
instead of a new manager,
So
I think Raggy's right in terms of if you don't get off to a good start, then the stuff will start to creep in. But I think what I'd say to that is that it's not his fault that he's not Bielsa. Absolutely.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
But that's on the other side of it, that who is Bielsa? I mean, I guess this is where I'm 50-50 on it, and I do think it was the right time to do something. I'm on the fence. I mean, I'm excited for Jesse. I'm excited for something different.
Yeah.
Whether it'll be something good enough, I don't know.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it?
Well, no one knows. That's the thing. I don't know.
It's the unknown, isn't it? It's the unknown.
I definitely don't know. Nobody knows. And that's the thing with football. And like you say, we could go unbeaten for the rest of the year and we go, should have done it in January. You know what I mean? And giving his war chest. If he was the 49ers appointment, we should have done that and some investment and all that. We could have been in Europe. It's all hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's
it's a hypothetical question.
And it is. And let's face it, we all have our opinions. We all want the best for Leeds United.
Yes.
And it is going to differ.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've it's not to say face or anything like that, but I've backed Bielsa and I certainly would have carried on because I certainly think that was the right thing to do. Other people will differ from that. What we have got is we've got a decision. It's done. We can't lick our wounds. We've got to move forward. Football doesn't change for anybody. It must be incredibly difficult for the playing staff because at the end of the day, like you say, Bielsa carries the can, but it's them who's done it. Yeah. It's the players.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, and like you say, if they have had that conversation and senior players have said, well, it's the end, they better be right about that because he's fucking made them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yeah. And they've got to show now, haven't they?
Yeah. And
they've got to.
And we have to see a response from those players.
Just going back to the toxicity. That is the word, isn't it? Just going back to the toxicity. And I really don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm trying to talk for the fan base because that really seems to get people's knickers in a twist on Twitter. But what I would say from my own point of view is if I've got ill feeling towards the club, towards the ownership for getting rid of Bielsa, I think the time to express that is at the end of the season because right now, that isn't going to keep us in the Premier League.
No.
But it also isn't going to get us relegated, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to get over is that we're all very, very sad about Bielsa leaving on a personal point of view, on a man point of view, on what he's given us and all this type of thing. But ultimately, as it goes now, we're in, don't want to use 12 cup finals because it's cliche, but ultimately, getting angry towards the board isn't going to take that back.
No.
It's all hypothetical. We could have kept Bielsa and still got relegated. If we get Jesse Marsch and get relegated, or if we get Jesse Marsch and get promoted, it's all hypothetical. Getting angry at players, at ownership, at new managers, really doesn't change anything. And I know it's an event and it's an outlet, but
but that's the thing.
Change anything.
But we've all talked about how this transcended football.
Absolutely.
And he transcended football, and that's the problem. That it's kind of like the curse. It's like the double-ended sword with him is how do you kill him when everyone loves him? And that's the thing because everyone's going to hurt. We've all hurt, even people who were like, it might be time for him to go now.
Oh yeah.
When it did, oh fucking hell, this hurts. And that's the thing. It's going to be emotion.
Yeah, because it's that thing of I kind of think it might be time for Bielsa to go. He's gone. Oh shit! It might not be time for Bielsa to go. Can I take it back? Can we have a cooling off period?
Exactly. And that's the curse of it because doing it this way.
Yeah.
If they were going to say right, he don't commit more than a year, whatever's going to happen will happen in the summer. It's evident from Radz's fucking hostage video.
I would like £10,000 in unmarked bills in a suitcase.
Fucking Yorkshire Evening Post and today's Yorkshire Evening Post, proof of life, and all that.
I think he'll get his money in the summer.
Yeah, I think.
Regardless, he said that this was going to happen in the summer, regardless. Whether you believe that or not,
Yeah.
But the problem you've got is if you do it this way and you haven't given him the rest of the year, you're going to have that. You're going to have the fan base going, fuck. Yeah. Because it wasn't just a manager.
No.
It wasn't.
No, mate, you're right. You're right.
We talk about Wilco. When we have conversations, I put something on Twitter and some fucking guy, I can't. And I was talking about he's a better person. I said there would be no better person to manage Leeds United for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
there won't be a better person. I wasn't talking about football, and he were going, you're desecrating Revy's name and Wilco's name, and I was like,
Oh man, I've had a bit of that.
I just ignored him because
just
that's
need to
what
kill the
Marcelo
shit.
Bielsa would do. Because I'm not getting
But
arguing.
no.
But what I'm saying is, like, even someone like Wilco, who some people now say, no, he's still a better manager than Bielsa because he came up and then he won it again. We won it.
Mate, there's so many variables in that argument.
But even someone like him, he
Different
got
areas.
hounded out. It happens. But to do this when he's on such a high, in terms of when I'm not talking about form, I'm talking about still with credit in the bank for the football.
Yeah.
We weren't booing. There was a bit of booing on Saturday, but ultimately this year, even when results have not gone our way, he's had the backing. He's certainly had the backing of the stadium.
I agree.
He's had the vast majority of backing online, and to do it now, that's what I mean. It's a potential powder keg. That's what you've got.
I agree, mate. But then when does it become blind faith? And I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. At what point does
You
it
see,
become where
that's maybe what I was trying to say. That where it maybe became blind faith
A little bit.
before that, before this weekend.
a little bit?
I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
But
little bit.
I think he,
Which is fine. He
Exactly.
deserves a bit of blind faith.
Yeah.
For me, he deserves all that.
Yeah.
He deserves the blind faith.
I tell you what, let's speed this long because we could probably debate this all night. So we're gonna do a bit of a quick fire round. You're given a pill, which means you lose your memory of a particular game and experience for the first time. What would you be your first worst moment under Bielsa to choose to just eradicate?
Let me just go back. Two different things. So
Them perverts are back in chat, by the way.
Are they?
We don't need this at the moment. Sorry, you're given a pill, which means you lose your memory of a particular game and experience it again. Sorry, for the first time.
So this was on
which game do you choose? So worst
Sport
moment.
Bible on Twitter. Really. So the Bielsa era. I thought we
Okay.
said that fits.
Sorry, yeah, mate.
Which game would you go back to watch?
Oh, so to experience it all over again.
Yeah.
West Brom. Pablo's goal against West Brom. Purely from my experience with my son. That's it. For me, that one.
Yeah.
I know. Ultimately, it didn't mean anything really.
No,
because
no.
We still didn't get promoted, but that.
I mean, as we said,
And
I'd have loved to have been at that Charlton game just for the whole title
Yeah.
thing and then that. Yeah.
For me, like the Swansea moment was the moment, but it was still sat at home. Like it was still sat
You
at home
wouldn't
watching it
change
on
the
it.
moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me to go, I just look that Huddersfield, the Ayling volley, Huddersfield. That was that period, and obviously COVID fucked it.
When we met in the Centenary before, didn't we?
we had a beer and we watched Fulham. Didn't they draw against
Bristol City.
Bristol
City. Yeah.
So they drop points. We go there. We beat. Ayling scores that. That was just for me, like because you're talking about like reliving it again.
Yeah.
That was before you knew. Obviously,
shitstorm.
Exactly the shit. So for me, that I'd do that one.
Okay, Ben, what are you going with?
To relive, yeah. I don't know. It probably both what you said there would be brilliant.
Are up
Yeah.
there, yeah.
Also earlier, maybe Leeds 3, Millwall 2 that same season.
Yeah.
Yeah, that were a good
That
one.
were
as well.
2-0 down.
Yeah, that was a good one, to be fair. That's
Shit
that's-
houses.
in that
2
one-
fucking early goals.
Isn't that when Barry Douglas didn't he rip, rip his ligaments off his knee? I
Yeah,
think?
and still put a cross in. Yeah.
Fair play, Bazza, by the way. Basher, whatever they called him.
I mean, just for the atmosphere, I guess you'd go the West Brom game.
Yeah, incredible.
That was
16 seconds, incredible. So
Again, I keep forgetting that we actually we won that Huddersfield game 2-0, and like that second goal didn't really matter. Did
Who
it?
scored it?
Because-
I
scored it? Jack
can't even
Harrison?
tell you.
Jack Harrison?
No,
Hold on, don't tell us. Hold on.
Alioski.
nope.
Bamford?
Bamford.
Yeah, I seem to remember.
Bamford at 51st minute, and then I couldn't tell you what that goal was
No.
or anything,
No, I can't remember it.
but everyone
It will
remembers
have
the.
been-
It was
early
at
one.
the time when
Well,
they
it would
put
have been at the Cop.
It was at the time when
Yeah.
they put a direction out, do not touch anybody that you
Yeah.
don't need to. And when Ayling scored that goal, I just hugged a random man
Mm.
who was stood beside of me. Random
How
man.
many minutes was Ayling goal?
3.
Was it
Three
Was
or
it
two.
early on? I know it was early.
Again, another Harrison cross, am I right? Harrison for
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
If Harrison,
Harrison.
if Harrison gets off the ball early, we usually score, but he's likes to fuck around with it at the moment.
Just let's see. Moving on slightly again. I'm conscious of time. We've been here an hour and 20 minutes. We've still got a bit to go. So how do we rightly honour Marcelo? This caused some people on Twitter to get the right knickers in a twist.
I was thinking about this when I wrote it today, and like a lot of people instead of sat the statue, and I like the idea of that. Like Bielsa, I think there's one that went round somewhere that
it was like a flatbed, wasn't it?
Yeah. Like Bielsa sat on his bucket somewhere would be nice, but I just find that a bit weird that the guy's still alive and stuff like that. That
he's not dead, is he?
I don't think his statue is just a bit weird in that sense. And where would you put it is another thing.
I like an idea.
I would put it
of a bucket
on the touchline.
Well, yeah, no, but that would be the
Can you imagine fucking Jesse stood next to it
and then
that's the crouch there?
It's the perfect place to put it, but it's the worst place to put it as well because, like, anyone who comes in now, they'll be stood there giving, and then you turn around and he's got a statue of Bielsa.
Mate, can you imagine though, one of them like gentle nudges that are plaguing someone else into a Bielsa statue? People are getting killed. It'd be horrific. But I suggested on Twitter, and it caused. I was actually quite surprised how much of an absolute fucking shitstorm it created on my feed. And this explains again why I don't post anything anymore because it's fucking stupid. But I just suggested that we rename the training ground the Marcelo.
Matt Jones said he'd put it in our goal for the rest of the games.
Good idea. I said change the training ground, and now straight away I was jumped all over with. Yeah, but Wilkinson created it, and loads of like mouth breathers getting really carried away. But Judd actually has commented at the bottom, said I'd put a statue of Marcelo Bielsa in one of the seats in the crowd. Pretty savvy idea, but it'd be a bit strange, I think.
Yeah.
Plus, it's really hard to get a season ticket in a minute, so how's he going to get one? But I said, like, let's rename the training ground purely because of this. Yes, I know that Howard Wilkinson created the training facility and all that type of stuff. But the training facility looks absolutely nothing like it did under Wilco's times. And it's not my fault that the club have not correctly honoured Wilco with what he deserves.
Yeah.
But what I thought is that's probably something that Bielsa would appreciate more because that's where the majority of his work went on. He was involved in a lot of the redevelopments of it now, and he would be more happy, I think, to see young players being developed at the Marcelo Bielsa training facility than he would a statue at the ground. That's just my opinion. If you want to start crying and abusing me on Twitter, which I've had,
I kind of like the idea, but then I also with the statue thing that.
Oh yeah, I've sacked
he's a guy
now.
That's still alive, and so anyone else that comes in, you're under that cloud.
Mate, I still like the idea. We flagged this ages ago on our podcast that across from the East Stand, what used to be the Fullerton Road training ground, have Revy, the team from that era,
like statue,
all looking at the ground.
Yeah,
sort of the backs to the car park, looking at the ground. Even move the statues that are there, leave Billy where he is, and then let's have a proper homage.
Well, yeah, that's it. We've not got any statues of them guys that
Revy
actually
were funded.
Won stuff like
Revies were funded by the fans, weren't it?
Yeah.
So it weren't. I don't know really, but
so my idea was, which I guess it may be a temporary one before they decide to do something super permanent. That you've got the fan zone or something like that, or any kind of wall that's sort of not covered. Maybe like where the car park is in the West Stand, where the new thing for the away fans are. You can have a wall with a timeline of Bielsa of the best moments and a picture of him lifting the title and just something like that. As it's nothing major, but something where people can go back and say
the Marcelo Bielsa fan park.
Well, I'll have it around the fan zone, so when people are having a beer, they can remember that. And
I tell you what would be good. Have you ever
like
been to like York Dungeons or all like that, where they have statues when you walk past them, their eyes pick up something and they start saying something? If you had like a Marcelo one, that every time you walk past it went, "Very good, Davies." And then you walk past it again, it goes, "Ipswich." Your favourite array of Marcelo comments. I mean, that'd be quite funny. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I just hope that it's a good one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Something that would be fitting. We're going to kind of end the Marcelo thing, and before I read this comment out that Ben's put in there that comes from
I'll do it.
One of Calvin's cousins. I just want to come to you guys first and say Marcelo, he's obviously gone back to Rosario, we think now, and we probably won't see him at Ellen Road again.
No.
What will be your lasting memory of Marcelo Bielsa at Leeds United, Ben?
Probably just the whole 3.5 years. It's changed everything, hasn't it? changes, like Raggy said earlier, it changes everyone as a person, and that's something we need to remember as fans. What Bielsa came, right, he gave us good football, but what he gave us as a person, as people, as in morals, and we take that flame on now. We carry that, and that's how we should act as a football club with them morals, because everything was right, and that's. I mean, as a person, that's what I like to think, that you do the right. I mean, people do wrong things, and everyone does wrong things. I do wrong things all the time and stuff like that. But if in your heart you think you're doing the right thing for everyone and stuff like that, the whole sort of Bielsa outlook on everything, that it's that's what we need to remember and need to carry on, and keep that, so that, because if not, all it is that he's won football games for 3.5 years, or not, as it seemed to in the end. But that's what we need to remember going forward, because winning a football game is just winning a football game. That'll just go into history. Like, we've talked about all these items here, but if we went on to win the Champions League in 3 or 4, I'm not saying we're going to do that, or got into the Champions League, or you remember their moments, and we should remember all these Bielsa moments. But the difference with Bielsa is we need to remember them special bits of Bielsa that made it so different.
That's, for me, that's it, because that's the emptiness I feel. It feels like we've lost a bit of the soul of the football club, because with Bielsa,
because he brought it back.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And I might be too hasty in saying that, because have we? You know, we'll have to see if we have. Feels that way immediately losing it. Because all of a sudden we were at the end of the day in the Championship. All the Championship is to get in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Premier League and you hate virtually all of it.
Yeah.
It's horrible. You're only there because it's the best league in the world and it's all the money, and the discrepancy between the Championship and that, and us getting there felt differently.
It didn't matter what the league was, did it?
It felt differently with Bielsa, because
ultimately that was the goal.
It was, because it wasn't about getting to the Premier League. He wanted to play football the right way.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do it in the right way. And he didn't want a team that hounded referees, and he didn't want divers, and he didn't want all the shit that you don't dislike about modern football. He didn't want that in any way.
No.
But ultimately, if we do all this, we're going to get there. So then we get there, and we need to be different. And we were different.
Yeah.
And I want us to carry that on.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest thing. That would be the best thing for legacy-wise. No one will remember Spurs coming in a terrible form and beating us 4-0 and it got in the sack.
Yeah.
No one will remember that. If we carry on the level of humility, the level, as fans, and again, Marcelo Bielsa would not want the fans turning on the new guy.
No,
he wouldn't want that. That's what we need as the football club. And I feel, because the cynic in me, and again, that's not what Marcelo would be like, because he's not cynical. Yeah. The cynic in me says that him getting fucked off now is against that, because it's all what's potentially coming in.
Yeah, in the future. Yeah.
With the Americans coming in, all that kind of stuff. And we need to resist that, in my opinion. And that's
why it's down to us.
And we can only do that as a fan base, a united fan base.
Yeah.
For me, I think, and I've thought about this over the weekend. I've been asked a few times why and stuff like that. And I think for me personally, what I'll miss, or what Marcelo gave it for me, is, as I said before, I was becoming quite disillusioned with football. Multi-million-pound players on multi-million-pound wages, so far detracted from the average sport fan goer who sits in the ground, who pays the £600, £700 a year for a season ticket, who pays the £30 a game for whatever it might be, burger, all that type of stuff. And I genuinely, before Bielsa came in, felt that as a fan base, we were quite separated from the club. That, they came on a Saturday, we went to Ellen Road on a Saturday, kind of because it's what we'd always done. It's it's a thing. I meet my mates, I go to match, I take my son, whatever your match going thing is. And I think the fact that we saw Marcelo walking around Morrison's, pushing a trolley, moving his paperwork to one side so some old Diaz can sit down in Costa, but continuing to go about his work, continuing to have humility to not give individual interviews to people because he didn't else to be able to have that. The fact that he took time to sign kit tags to hand out to kids when he got off and lollies and all that.
Even to the point, I mean,
type of
my
stuff.
friend came over from Northern Ireland on Saturday and brought his lad for the first game. I mean, luckily, he got to see that. So last of Bielsa, and they stayed at the Hilton, the DoubleTree where the team stayed. And Bielsa didn't come out and give anything to the kids, but he had a bag of stickers, badges, whatever they were. Give it to the security guard and said, "For the children." Got on the coach and carried on his day.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that the take home from me is that in a world where it's quite cynical and it's quite poisonous and toxic, and we're seeing the things that are going off in the world right now, and it's not particularly nice viewing or comfortable or like that. You can still choose to be a good person, and I took that away from Bielsa. That in the world, he swam with sharks essentially at Premier League, which it is, millions of pounds sloshing about. People do anything for a couple of extra pounds. Never subscribe to that. Always subscribe to his belief, his ethos. And like we've sat on here, and I've said, "Oh God, I wish you just change or change a bit of this or change a bit of that or change a bit of other." And do you know what? He never did, and ultimately it cost him his job. But I look back and I think there's something kind of honourable about that. There's something kind of the fact that in the face of real adversity, where potentially the club have told him that if you don't turn results around, you're going. Still stuck by his ethoses and still stuck by his beliefs and still stuck by the fact that, do you know what? I've got a way of doing things. I've got a way of being a good person. And no matter what goes on around me, how many people I'm surrounded by, I'm still going to do them things. And I think that is a massive take-home message for everybody. If the world is surrounding you with twats, you can still choose to be a good person. It's your choice.
It was just over 170 games.
Yeah, 170. Yeah. 47% win average.
You could probably count on your hands how many good refereeing performances we've had in 170 games.
That's what's
right.
Never once.
Have you ever heard him criticise a single refereeing decision?
No. Mate, he played an embryo. He put an embryo on the bench rather than call off a game while you got Arsenal selling players hand over fist while calling off games while fielding a 23 squad full of youth internationals and asking for games to be called off. It's a fucking embarrassment. And do you know what? I would much rather die on that hill with Bielsa, who was like, "No, we are playing them," than ever be one of them cowardly, shithousery teams who would literally, you do anything to get some sporting advantage. Newcastle got games called off for COVID and injuries, which basically allowed them to do January transfer business, which then allowed them to take, games at a stronger position. Do you know what? I'd take Bielsa over that every single day of the week because that's doing the right thing at the right time.
And that's the kind of, it kind of leads me on to where I was going to go to end this. And so before that, that's why Bielsa came to Leeds in a way, because we were them big clubs that were like the sleeping giant, all kind of thing. But we had that authenticity, like the raw footballness. Like we never lost that with the Premier League, like everyone else in the Premier League has. And I think that's maybe what attracted Bielsa and everything else. I mean, it suited him. Like, he lived in Wetherby. It was nice, and the whole area. And I guess he saw similarities in what he wanted and stuff like that. And there's all that sort of side of it. But I think the most of it is that he came because he felt in tune with what we should be.
Mate, the fact on his days off, he went to Whitby to see what the Yorkshire lifestyle was all about. Do you know what I mean? You get other managers in Premier League who'll piss off to Dubai for a weekend, take the wife with him, sit outside of a pool, get everything weighted hand and foot. He also went and walked up the 95 steps or whatever is up to Whitby Abbey and had a look round. The fact that during the COVID pandemic, Marcelo sat in his house with his friend who acts as his chauffeur, the quite quirky guy, while the world was spinning off its axis with a killer virus and his family sat in Rosario, he made them sacrifices for Leeds United. He could have quite happily jumped on it. I know, obviously, the sort of COVID regulations, but he could have quite easily, at the first hint of a smell of trouble, gone back and done what any man would do for the family and go and protect the family. And he chose not to do that. And that was due to his commitment to Leeds United. Do you want to read what was placed on Facebook by Bobby?
Yeah, so Calvin's cousin Bobby, who I grew up with. So it was a comment I didn't quite understand at first because I had to look back onto it. So he just tweeted, I think he tweeted and put it on Facebook, but he said, sometimes God puts people in the right place. And that was something Marcelo Bielsa said about Phillips, so obviously Bobby's cousin, after the centenary game where he scored in that game. And I looked back at that and I thought, that's one of the sort of main things, like, that happened. And it's one of them things in life. I mean, I don't believe in religion, so the God thing, whatever, but I do believe that stuff like that does happen and people get put in the right place at the right time just for something to happen. If something's going to happen for you, it'll happen. Like, I mean, the person I like this house, it just felt right at the time and everything happened and stuff like that. I think someone was about to buy it before and that fell through, and things like that happen in your life. And whether good or bad, that's the sort of the destiny of your life kind of thing, not to get too sort of out of worldly with it. But yeah. And I thought about that, and I thought maybe that's the same for Bielsa then. That like, and I'm thinking, what's the comparison here? And it was a bit like Mary Poppins, and this is a really weird way to go down it.
Chimney,
yeah,
chimney. Sorry,
but there's a weird like you go back to that movie, and movies are all about the stories, aren't there, and stuff like that. And this person came who were from somewhere else, and he came and he reinvigorated everything because everything was wrong. Yeah. And that's what Bielsa did. Bielsa was our Mary Poppins in a way. And that's where, he was the right place at the right time kind of thing. God put him, whoever God you worship or whatever, someone put him in that place. He was free, and Victor Orta had that idea, Marcelo Bielsa, and it happened. And that's how I think I'd like to end this, like, and say thank you with a lump in my throat. But that's what we have to stand for now, that he came and taught us everything that was right. And if we threw that away, like we've just said, then it's shame on us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We follow on from what Marcelo's taught us, and we keep doing Leeds United, because we're not these Premier League teams. We're Leeds United, and that's what everyone has said for the last 2 years of being in the Premier League, that Leeds are something different, and we've always been something different. Yeah. But let's do the different right and continue to do it right.
It's the irony, isn't it? Like, for years, Leeds were different, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And Marcelo came and we were different for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In a world of dickheads, stick by your morals and be a decent person. I think that's the takeaway. Moving on then. I feel like we've done therapy. I feel tired. I know this is like a marathon show, by the way, for anybody who's still hanging in there, but we promise we'll be done before bedtime.
Lass has just texted me, see if she can come home yet.
She's not allowed to come home.
No.
She's outside in the cold. Moving on then. Jesse Marsch is the new manager of Leeds United. Signed a longer...
You're not my real
You're not my real dad. Signed a long-term contract. What do we think?
That was funny. All
the
sort of stepdad vibes.
Yeah, like on Step Brothers, or is it back at Cat? I'm not calling him dad, not even if there's a fire. But joking apart, I've seen a few bits of slagging him off on Twitter, which I feel is inappropriate, and Marcelo wouldn't want us to do that, so let's not do that. But long story short is
no one's ever going to be Marcelo Bielsa.
And so no one should try to be.
No,
either. That's the thing. Marcelo is Marcelo.
And I think that's what came through well with Jesse, that on the sort of interviews that I've seen from him. And I'm looking forward to what he has to say tomorrow as well. He acknowledges what Marcelo has done here, and he wants to add to that.
Yeah. Do you know what you've just reminded me of? Do you remember when Hockaday got the job? Yeah. And no, but the exact opposite happened there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it was a surprise, and he was surprised, right? Because he was supposed to be met Cellino for, talking about the academy or something like that.
And he was at a press conference.
And all of a sudden, you're given the job. And it was out there. It was absolutely, it took the whole footballing community by surprise. And they asked him in his press conference, "Are you surprised?" And he's like, No, I deserve this job.
Yeah.
And he was so arrogant with it.
Yeah.
And he's the exact opposite. Instead,
at least Jesse Marsch
has come in and gone, you know what? If fan base will be hurting here.
Yeah.
You can't really follow what he's done. and you've got to acknowledge
It
that.
shows incredibly good self-awareness.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely. And like I did a deep
And that's first tick in the box, I think.
I agree. I did a deep dive on Jesse Marsch all weekend because I didn't want to read Bielsa stuff because it's embarrassing. Like I cried in front of my family to Afterlife. And I mean to the point of my missus came and sat downstairs one Sunday morning and said, "So what's it all about?" And I could not string a sentence together without crying like a child at Afterlife. The bit where I'll not spoil it for people, but the very end of Afterlife, I fucking cried like a baby rags, honestly. So I'm not emotionally made up for watching Marcelo sad stuff. So I thought, right, I'm going balls deep into reading about Jesse Marsch. So I watched an hour and a half webinar. I listened to 3 podcasts. I listened to as many possible things as I've done. And now Ryan Paul Riggins.
You've done some Bielsa research.
I've done some serious Bielsa research. Ryan Paul Riggins, he's very media trained. Right, he might be, but let's not get that twisted with being an educated dude. So, played football for Princeton. Princeton's a well-respected university in America, obviously.
Ivy League.
He speaks 3 languages fluent: German, Spanish, and English, obviously, with a twinge.
I'm good with our squad.
A twinge of American. When he was manager of RB Salzburg, he felt that it was right to learn German fluently and speak to his squad in German.
Yeah.
So there's a documentary on RB TV or Red Bull Telly, whatever it is, called Lederman about Ladyman, not the same, different one. Lederman about Jesse Marsch's time at RB Salzburg, and he is not trying to be Bielsa. He plays front foot aggressive football in a slightly different way to Bielsa.
I think the good thing is it's
a natural progression.
It's similar, but a bit different.
Yeah,
and that's where we need to be going. You can't come in at this stage in where we are now and say,
change it also.
I'm going to go Stoke, Brexit ball, hoof it up.
Exactly.
That's not going to work, is it? Like, that's just an example. But
No, but you're exactly right. And the amount of people who've said that, the amount of non-Leeds mates of mine, like, you just need someone to come in and solidify you at the back. No, we don't. Yeah. No, we don't.
No,
that's exactly the opposite.
We made a lot of chances against Spurs. We made a few against Liverpool. We could have, like, you go back to the Everton game. There was the 2. I mean, there's something I was listening to the Square Ball the other day. I mean, we have been unlucky in the sort of the chances that haven't gone for us, things that haven't gone for us that way as well. But
so just going back to his past, so he became manager of Montreal Impact. That was his sort of first job. He then found his way to New York Red Bulls, coached a certain Lloyd Sam and Mike Grella.
Yeah,
I've been to a New York.
You went to a game when he was in charge.
He was in charge. I only realised that like when
last night
when I was going through his Wikipedia, I was like, oh shit.
So he basically found his.
So it left an impression on you, yeah.
It was 0-0 against Real Salt Lake. It was one of the worst games of football I've ever seen in my life. But let's not.
Yeah, let's not dwell.
That's American soccer for you.
So he gets a job at RB Salzburg, guides them to quite a bit of silverware, but it's worth putting a asterisk aside the fact that they are probably one of the biggest clubs in Austria, and they are expected to do that. As a result of that, he got a bit of a job at Leipzig, following on from Julian Nagelsmann,
which was always going to be a hard follow-on. In
the other side of that is the fact that he was told to go in there and change the style of play back to heavy metal football, gegenpress style, where Nagelsmann had changed it. When he went in there, he found the resistance to change quite difficult. His wife got breast cancer.
Yeah.
Was really ill. He actually went into the board a few times and says, "For what you want me to do, I'm not sure I'm the man to do it." Eventually, they disposed of him after 4 months. In between all these times, he toured the world. He did 70 countries with his family around the world to sort of further himself. He got his pro license in Scotland through a Scottish affiliation club. Not sure which club that is yet, but I'm still digging to try and find out. And the long and short of it is, I like what,
get on well with Phil then.
I like, it might be hard. I like what he's got to say. I really do. I like the idea that he's got a style. I like the idea that he knows what he wants. I like the idea that he appears to be kind of the opposite to the previous manager in terms of that he has a real friendship with the players, or tries to create a friendship with the players, where Marcelo was known for being quite aloof around the players on the face of things from what we saw. He's known for developing young players. Certain Erling Haaland he had at Salzburg.
I don't know what it's like in a Premier League dressing room, but maybe that is how a Premier League dressing room sort of has to be now. That they want that mollycoddling, they want an arm
I think
round
it's
them.
a balance.
As much as we've changed from the I mean, the influence that Marcelo comes in and on the Championship team. Once we get to that progression of being a Premier League team and hopefully continue to be a Premier League team, players are a bit different, and it loses that, which is a good way that we've kept all them players, but from the Championship. But slowly they're gonna fizzle out in a way, and I guess that's a natural thing that it was always going to be like that. And maybe at the moment, that's what they need, especially those players that have come up for the Championship who've for 3.5 years run the socks off, run themselves into the ground nearly as such.
Yeah.
Maybe they just need now someone to instill a different bit of confidence in them, do something a little bit different that they think, I can do that now. Like, rather than doing the same thing under Bielsa that clearly wasn't getting the results.
I think ultimately everything I've just said is very hypothetical at the moment, and we'll find out this coming weekend against Leicester City.
Yeah.
As to
I mean,
how
I
we
see a
set
lot of
up, what we
people
do,
like
all that type of stuff.
a lot of formation things and stuff like that, and I've kind of tried to stay away from that myself. Like, I don't know, because every team can be different in what players there is and stuff like that, and I don't want to start thinking, oh, he's going to pick this team and it's going to be great. And
we'll find out when he calls it an hour
yeah.
before the game against Leicester. I mean, the other one that I find quite interesting out of all this is Cameron Toshak is his number 2.
Yeah.
Who is John Toshak's son, obviously legend of Welsh football. But if you look at his coaching stats in his own right, they're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
He was quite successful with Swansea under 23s. Went out to Paphos, which is obviously in the Cyprus League, with I think 14 fit players and took 14 points from 18 games. Like, in his own right, he's quite well renowned. So the two of them, and I think some of Bielsa's staff has stayed behind as well, but we're yet to have names on that. I know his interpreter stroke football analyst has today announced that he's left the club along with Marcelo. But yeah, it's it'll be interesting. Leicester this Saturday.
I'm kind of glad it's away.
12:30
I am
kickoff.
glad it's
Big
away.
Yeah, maybe that's the best thing for now.
I agree. I think it's a good idea that it's away, and I think it's probably a conscious decision to make the change at this point. Go and get a positive result against Leicester this weekend, and then the game against Villa is the following game. You might get a slightly different atmosphere compared to what we would have got if it his first game.
It's just going to be weird. It's going to be weird going to Ellen Road to not watch a Bielsa Leeds.
Yeah,
and I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. And
I don't.
And I would say that there's going to be 34,000 other Leeds fans who don't know how they're going to.
Yeah, and depending on how that goes, that could change, I guess, very quickly. I guess it'd be very same to the first game of this season where
we didn't really,
we'd not been in the stadium for a year and a half or whatever it was, and that felt weird. But then you soon just kind of just fall into I suppose in a way we were always going to fall into that because it was Bielsa and there was that continuity there.
At the end of the day, football carries on, and it stops for no people. No,
it carries on.
If we go in and we 1-0 up within 5 minutes against Villa, everything's
rosy.
Yeah.
Shall we get from a completely blind alley? Should we get some score predictions? We don't know who's going to play. We don't know what he's going to play, but let's get some score predictions.
Raggy's predictor.
The big man in flesh in 3D. We haven't seen you in 3D for so long now. It's nice to see your slimline, youthful-looking body sat next to me.
I've lost a bit of weight. I don't think I've lost any age, so I'm just trying to find it. I'm gonna. This is gonna be confession time, lads.
You've not been keeping up, have you?
Well,
I don't think any of us got it last week.
You know, well, I was just gonna say I'm kind of going to gamble that no one
got
went
it
for
right. You don't need to gamble. I'll tell you that's the truth.
If they did, the bastards.
So that means that Gary's on 8, Ben's 10,
Sack me bringing
Mike 13, and me 15 because I did get a point against Liverpool because I did say we would lose against Liverpool.
You did, yeah. Raggy the bastard.
Raggy the bastard. So Leicester City. They won last night. They helped Leeds United out last night.
I've heard Norwich are winning. Norwich are losing tonight as well.
It's FA Cup, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, I just saw it in the comments.
It's FA Cup.
Okay. That's okay. So they helped us out. I think is that the first league win in the calendar year?
Yes, actually,
as well.
It's the first Tuesday night game Burnley have lost in the Premier League under Sean Dyche's tenure.
Really?
For that, big shout out Ryan Pugh for that stat, by the way, from Safe Hands Framing. Good stat.
Don't like to play Burnley on a windy Tuesday night.
Can they do it at a windy Tuesday night at Burnley? Sorry.
So yeah, how do we see it going? Early kickoff,
2-1 Leeds.
12:30.
Do you know
2-1
something?
Leeds. Then
I'm going 2-0 Leeds.
2-0 Leeds.
I'm going new manager bounce, 2-0 Leeds. Joffe.
That's my.
I'm really looking
shopping
forward
list,
to
so-
his press
so
conference
Ben,
tomorrow.
Joffe and Rodrigo. Apparently, there's a training video out. Apparently. Training video.
Murder ball.
Gaz to
Yeah, just made a ball. 2 hours made.
Imagine, right, you get a new coach comes in and so what's this murder ball thing? Do you want to do it again, lads? Do you want to keep doing that?
We did it 3 times today. What are you doing, Rags?
Realistically,
I'll take a draw.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Just don't get beat.
I'm going 2 each.
Just don't get beat.
Desmond 2-2. That's what I'm going.
we'll get Mike's later.
Yeah, we'll grab Mike's later. We have rattled out a incredible marathon podcast here.
Yeah,
An
It's
hour
probably
and
our
55
longest
minutes.
podcast ever.
Probably the longest ever, yeah, apart from some of the watch-alongs.
I think it was always going to be on it.
We will end the show with a video from Hooked on Leeds, our new friend on Twitter, who's knocking out some lovely little sort of clips and videos and stuff about Leeds. Give him a follow on Hooked on Leeds at Twitter. I think he's also on TikTok. He popped up on TikTok this morning while I was
and
having
he'll
a
be
bit
on
of a-
our YouTube
bit of a
going
scroll through.
forward.
And he will be on our YouTube info. We are collabing, I think he's called nowadays in the modern world. We're collabing with him to carry all that. So yeah, we'll play at the end. It gives you a little idea of the differences between Jesse Marsch and Marcelo Bielsa in terms of playing style. What I would say is a massive, genuine, heartfelt thank you to everybody who has stuck with this all night. But also the fact that, we was born before Bielsa. We will continue after Bielsa, but we do appreciate everybody's support and, more importantly, gracias, Marcelo, for your time at Leeds.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please watch the video. I'll say that.
Is why the appointment of Jesse Marsch will benefit Leeds United in 3 minutes or less. Jesse Marsch opts to use a front 2, meaning that Leeds United strikers need to press 50% less than they did under Bielsa, allowing for them to focus on quality rather than the ability to press. Leeds will be much stronger at defending set pieces, deploying a more traditional zonal system instead of going man-to-man, something which has seen them become undone by the same set piece multiple times with no response from Bielsa. Marsch opts for his teams to press the ball carrier in a system similar to that of City, Liverpool, PSG and Bayern Munich, rather than the strict man-marking system exclusive to Bielsa sides. This gives them the same amount of bodies going forward with much more defensive stability at the back.
If you watch Marcelo Bielsa with Leeds, he does a lot of man marking across the field.
By playing a front 2, it means that Gelhardt will see much more game time and have much less defensive responsibility, increasing his potential by tenfold. Teams deployed man marking on Rafinha and Harrison, meaning that when they were pinned to the touchline as Bielsa likes, they became isolated and overcrowded very quickly. Under Marsch, they'll be given much more freedom and they'll occupy a versatile role, allowing them to move into central areas of the pitch. Bamford plays on the left side while Rodrigo plays on the right, linking up with Rafinha, something he's done extremely well throughout his time at Leeds. Furthermore, in the midfield, record signing Rodrigo's defensive shortcomings will no longer be exploited. This is because under Marsch, fullbacks are much more disciplined and actually cover the wide areas instead of drifting inside and up the pitch. By playing a double pivot, young prodigies such as Lewis Bate will see much more game time, playing alongside the likes of Calvin Phillips and Adam Forshaw in a non-specialist role. Rodrigo, Gelhardt and Roberts can all play 4 positions in this Jesse Marsch system, giving Leeds great variety and much more squad depth without the Bielsa specialist roles. Leeds plan to sign former Marsch player Brendan Aronson in the summer. This means that if Rafinha is to leave, they can reinvest the money into a world-class fullback and a world-class striker, with Aronson being able to occupy 2 different positions and indirectly giving them more depth in 4.